Tim.
G'day, Dan.
Good morning.
How are you?
Thanks again for taking us for a ride. That was
Pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
A lot of fun, and a real head-turning, emotional experience. I understand it. What can you tell us about your beautiful boat?
Well, it's a pretty boat, there's no doubt about it. And the whole process started in around about 2010 when my wife suggested we look at buying a boat. And I'm into speedboats, well, not so much sailboats, if you understand my meaning.
Yeah.
And so we went to an auction and there were a couple of Chris Craft timber boats up for grabs. Both of those we missed, but happily, because they were in such shocking condition.
Right.
They would have taken so much work to restore.
Okay.
Anyway, I went home, jumped on the internet, found the plans for this boat through Glenelg Marine in California.
Yep.
And they have plans available for hundreds of different boats, but this was the one that I thought was the most beautiful boat they had on offer to build.
Yep.
And so it all started there.
Yeah, right. And the process. Tell us about getting permission with the wife. Was that something you really had to negotiate?
It wasn't so much permission. She comes from a boating family.
Yes.
And the only problem was that it had no sail, and that it was a little bit noisy and perhaps went a little bit too quickly for her. But I think she got used to that.
Okay.
And so we've enjoyed running in the boat since 2010.
Okay. And you've got a history in woodworking and building, so what can you tell us about that?
I'm a house builder by trade.
Yep.
And so this is quite different to what I normally do, but I love working with wood.
Yep.
Wood's my thing.
Yeah.
And with all due respect, boats that aren't wood have no interest to me. So the thought of building such a craft, my wife calls it my floating sports car, out of the most beautiful timbers I could find, really did it for me. And so sourcing the timbers was the next step. I had a lot of timber in stock of my own that I've had for years, lovely dry, dead straight Oregon 6 metre lengths, which I used for all the battens and the framework. And then I sourced marine grade ply for the cladding, the cold mould cladding, which is the style of build that the boat's based on. And over the top of the ply sheet, this solid African mahogany was placed, 5 millimetres thick, solid African mahogany, both on the sides and on the deck, with the infill strips of Australian white beech.
Okay. And how long did it take from?
It took me 2 years.
2,000
hours over 2 years.
Wow. Okay.
And it was hard work.
Yeah.
Sanding was the worst part of the job.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you can see that it's worth it.
Oh, absolutely.
Just to put the hours in.
Yep.
And I'm very proud of the finished result.
And getting all the custom fittings like this windscreen and the mirror and the wheel, where did you source all those parts?
From all over the world, really. The steering wheel's a motor leader, made by the English company Motor Leader and designed for the Shelby Cobra.
Yeah.
And I thought it worked well with this style of boat. This boat is designed, the design of this boat is based on the 1950s Chris Craft Sportsman.
Yep.
And I wanted for the boat to have that look, albeit to be up to speed with today's standards.
Yeah.
So I sourced the hardware from the States, Canada. Some of it came through an Australian retailer from Italy. The windscreen is, as the boat was designed to have, a plexiglass screen of that shape and style. And that was made up by the windscreen people, windscreens in Seven Hills, who laid the material over the mould that I supplied for them.
Yep.
The upholstery was carried out by local upholsterers, and they did a beautiful job, particularly around the trims here. Just put their heart and soul into it, and it looks incredible. And the colour's right for the era.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I find I've obviously had a look over the boat before we went for our drive, even right down to the screws where everything is aligned. There is not a single screw on this boat that isn't aligned fore and aft.
Well, that's pretty important to me, just generally in my building, I like things to be right, and I
Yep.
go a little bit over the top. I've been accused of going over the top more than once.
So cool.
But the fact that we have a straight slot screw and not a single Phillips head screw in the boat,
Yep.
again, was important to maintain the look of a 1950s craft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And that sort of detail, did you carry that through on the mechanics?
Indeed.
Yep.
Indeed.
What sort of engine have you
Except
got?
to say that the engine is state-of-the-art machinery.
Yep.
It's a 350 Chev from engine manufacturers PCM
Yep.
in the States.
Okay.
It's closed water cooling, so no salt water goes through the engine itself.
Yep.
It's just the ultimate
Yep.
in boat engines for this
What
style of boat.
made you choose to go with PCM?
I looked at PCM and another well-known engine brand.
Yep.
And there were a lot of things about the other engine that I wasn't really happy with.
Okay.
But the final decision was made by virtue of the other engine would not fit in the boat.
Sure.
It was too high.
Yep.
And so the PCM has a 9-degree down angle on the transmission,
Yep.
which allowed the engine to flatten out.
Yep.
And that worked a treat. It just sits beautifully under the hatch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And we're obviously running a straight shaft. And what prop are you running on this boat?
It's a 4-blade Sucre Comme.
Yep.
I'm not an expert on props, but I used a prop expert to supply
Yep.
and install the prop,
Sure.
and the boat goes like stink.
Sure does.
Yeah.
It sure does.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Well, we might have a bit of a look through.
Sure.
So the business end, we had a bit of a chat about the PCM before, but how did you find the whole process of installation, and how have you found the engine throughout the boat's history?
We were recommended the engine by Castle Marine
Yep.
out at Vineyard. Very good boat people, and they helped me a great deal. They installed the exhaust after the engine went in. They provided the prop shaft.
Yep.
Countless items came from them, and a huge amount of advice as well.
Right.
The engine itself was not difficult. It's a crate motor. It came in a crate off the back of the truck. We had a block and tackle set up in there, and we carefully lowered it in and positioned the engine, made sure it would fit. And this is even before the boat was spray painted.
Right.
So that we knew that there was no issue at the end of the day.
Okay.
Everything lined up beautifully. It's super solid, and there's a little bit of movement as the throttle kicks in. You can see a couple of little rub marks here. That's
Yep.
how close the top of the engine cowl is to the
I can see
underside.
why the other
there.
ones wouldn't fit.
Yeah, that's
okay.
right.
All right.
And
And-
it's absolutely fine. It's a ripper of an engine.
Right, so Tim, we've gone from the business end to the fun end. What's it like taking your friends and family out on this boat?
We love it. We don't go out that often, but when we go out, it's just a blast.
Yeah.
And everybody really enjoys it. And we've got the red ensign flying off the back, and it's a treat of a boat. And we always get lots of positive comments, as you can imagine. That's really nice to hear, because the project of building this boat, I've said many times, it has been the most enjoyable thing I've ever done in my life. I've just loved putting this extraordinary boat together, and I love it.
Good.
I just love it. I get a bit passionate about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's so wonderful to see.
Yeah, three in the back and
Okay.
3 in the front on occasion. It's a 5-person boat, really.
Okay.
Comfortably, you know, as I say, you can get 3 front, 3 back, but 5 people is very comfortable,
Yeah.
and 4 is even more comfortable. I had some mates out not that long ago,
Yep.
and we just whizzed up Carran Creek early in the morning, and it was a blast of a time. It's a really enjoyable boat to run.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
loads of fun.
And that's the sort of thing you do. You whiz up the creek.
That's
have a
all we
look
do.
around, feel good.
It's a lake boat. It's a lake style boat.
Yeah.
So it'll take the harbour on a very calm day,
Yeah.
but it's river or lake
Yeah.
is what these boats were designed for.
Yeah.
and it just hoots along. It's fantastic.
So Tim, the registration. What can you tell me about
Well,
it?
we know, don't we, Dan, that New South Wales registration has to finish with an N.
That's
N.
right. Yep.
And the name of the boat, or the style of the boat, is called a Monaco.
Yep.
So I thought, as it has a 350 Chev engine inside, the MON for the Monaco would work really well. And I was thrilled when I found that that was available. I mean, as you think about it, why wouldn't it be? But it works for the boat.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good, so good. You've really left, nothing missing on this boat.
Well,
all the
everything
details.
has to be special about this boat.
Yeah.
The build and the ultimate look.
Yeah.
It's a special boat.
Yeah.
And that's the way it's been. That's the way it's been designed. That's the way it's been built.
That's great. Look, I just really want to thank you for taking us out on such a memorable experience
It's a pleasure.
today. That was
Thanks
so
for your
much
interest,
fun. Really
Dan.
enjoyed looking through the boat.
Appreciate that.
And yeah, it's a wonderful story.
Good, mate.